off the top with the guys you designated to return today. Are you expecting particularly Van and Troy to be able to contribute immediately this week, or is there like an onboarding period?
I think we'll take it a day at a time, but the answer is yes. It's good to get those guys back. We were just able to get a good extra day of work today. Coming off the bye, I thought the guys did a great job of getting good intentional work today, and both of those guys in particular look good. It was good to get Brian Allen and Traven Howard out there as well.
And then are you expecting Alaric to take over at left tackle full-time?
Yes.
In terms of that, what did you see? I mean, it kind of feels like it was a year ago at this point, but what did you see when he stepped in, and what do you see from him in practice?
I thought he did a really nice job, Jordan. I think, if you said natural position fit, I think that's probably his most natural position is at tackle. What I do think he's benefited from playing at guard where things happen quicker, got to be able to get your second step in the ground. I think that helped him for some of the things that will occur outside, where things seem to be sped up a little bit more with a lot of the things that you're seeing based on the landscape of the league, particularly for those inside players. And so thought his length, I thought his comfort in his pass sets, his understanding of where he fits within the framework of some of the stuff in the run game. I was really pleased with him. I think it says a lot about him to be able to get, so many reps at the right guard spot, for the last month, almost exclusively, and then just to seamlessly slide out the left tackle and be as sharp as he was. And, in some instances when you're going against some really good players, from that rush that we saw from the Panthers. So very encouraged, and I think it'll be good for him to be able to kind of settle in and try to play really good ball there this week.
And then finally for me, where are you guys at with the Cam Akers situation?
Same as, we've been in dialogue with some different teams, talked to Cam and talked to David Malgetta, and we're just taking that a day at a time. There's no new updates, and obviously, we'll continue to work towards having more clarity. But as of right now, he's on our team, he's on our roster, and we're kind of just taking that a day at a time.
Gilbert.
Hey, Sean, another question on Cam. Is it still an option for him that maybe could come back to the team, or is it still the first option to trade him?
No, it's definitely still an option for him to come back. Kind of like what you guys had asked me before we went on a little break. Always open-minded. We're looking into, the possibility of moving him to another team, but that does not mean that that's the only thing that we're exploring. So we're open to a couple different things as far as, having some clarity and finality to this scenario and situation as it relates to Cam.
And gotcha, Sean. And with another O-line question, how about at right guard? Is still Oday going forward?
I think we'll continue to evaluate that. I was pleased with what Oday did. You could see the experience, and just the understanding of how to play the game. There's not a lot of experience in regards to some of the things that we're asking, but the game makes sense to Oday. Got another guy in Matt Skura. You bring in Ty and Secchi, who both myself and Coach Carberry have familiarity with. I think Bobby Evans is doing a good job of maximizing his opportunities, and to be able to get BA back in the mix is a big thing. So we'll continue to evaluate that, but I was pleased with Oday and the performance that he had against the Panthers.
And Sean, one more from me, but what have you missed the most from Van Jefferson?
I just think it's the overall productivity. Obviously he brings the big play element, but I think Van's a complete receiver. I think he showed that with the way that he was progressing really throughout last year, but then especially where he, was at in relation to just his performance in training camp. And camp is camp, but it's still playing football. And so to be able to get him back, a guy with a lot of experience, a lot of ownership of our offense, the ability to play in a bunch of different spots. I think he's a great compliment to some of the guys that we already have in the mix, but you're getting a big time playmaker back who can do a lot of different things for us, and love Van and really glad to be able to have him back in the mix for us.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Sarah.
Sean, what were your thoughts about the 49ers trading for Christian McCaffrey?
No, you thought, they get another great player, but I think he's a phenomenal player. Obviously, we saw him recently. I've always had respect for his game and the versatility. So, I think that's your first inclination. And then you have, what a great job Kyle and his staff do of maximizing and utilizing versatile offensive weapons. So that was my first reaction. And then, as a competitor, you say, hey, they've got them. We've got to be able to move forward accordingly. And just so happens that they're on the schedule this week. And looking forward to a great week of preparation that I think was started off the right way, and our guys feel fresh. I think the bye, it typically would be very early, but based on the way that this year's played out, I think it came at the perfect spot for us, and it's a good bounce in our guys' step, both players and coaches, and we'll get a chance to see a great player in addition to a bunch of other great players on Sunday.
Both Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said that you guys have been a big part in opening their eyes to making big trades for a guy like McCaffrey. Do you feel like there's more competition in those situations? And how aware are you that the Niners are, as a team, are openly admitting to wanting to prevent a guy like him from coming to you guys?
I think it goes both ways. I think there's the thing that I respect is there's good competitiveness. We have a lot of relationships in this business. It's a small business, but it is one that it's got a bunch of very competitive people. And sometimes some of the moves are made with, number one, if it benefits your team, but then it's also not trying to help strengthen others. And I think that's just a sound approach. I don't think we were the first people to do that by any stretch, but I think there is a willingness to be aggressive in your pursuit of trying to do what is best for your team and trying to give yourself an opportunity to go do special things year in and year out. And certainly the Niners are one of those teams that's done that, in addition to, a lot of other clubs in this league.
And then one more for me. Do you expect Kyren Williams, do you expect to start his 21-day window anytime soon?
You know what? I don't know that. He's a guy that maybe we're a week away. He's not quite on the same level as those other guys that we actually did start their clock, which that's the obvious statement, I guess, as I'm saying that. But I would say that it's probably at least a week away from even starting those discussions, Sarah.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Gary.
Hey, Sean, just for clarity, so is Brian Allen going to be back this week?
Yes.
How close is Coleman Shelton to?
I'd say he's one of those guys that we're continuing to monitor, whether he's available this week or not. I would say probably unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it totally out. But it is good to get Brian back in the mix.
And then in regard to Cam, is he going to practice this week and possibly play on Sunday, or is he still kind of away from the facility?
No, we're open to some different things. He'll be able to get his work in this week, whether that is in a practice setting or kind of individually driven are things that we're working through right now, Gary.
But would you expect, if he's still with you by Sunday, would you expect him to play on Sunday?
I would say it's more than likely that he would not, but I wouldn't. I don't want to pigeonhole myself into kind of speaking in absolutes. But I'd say if you were to go to Vegas and you're betting odds, it's less likely that he would be available.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dennis.
Hello, Coach McVay. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How about you, Dennis?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Coach McVay, what is your idea of running the ball effectively? Is it more or less as a team rushing for 100 yards or moving the chains when you actually need the ball to be moved?
I think it's that, because you can break a long run and it can really skew your stats. But I think it's about the consistency and the efficiency when you do run the football of staying on schedule. And then in some instances, it might be on a 3rd down and 15, getting a 1st down on an offset gun run that Darrell Henderson did a great job with against the Panthers. So I think it's more about, the individual efficiency, compounded over the course of a game than it is looking for a rote number. Because I do think the best thing about football is each play is its own separate entity. You can get a feel for when you're really able to run the football efficiently and effectively. You're able to kind of change the line of scrimmage. You're staying on track. You're picking and choosing your spots. And, those are things that we're always hunting up, but it would be more the latter to your original question, Dennis.
Okay. And going into the second half of the season, how confident are you that your team will be able to do that, running the football?
You know what I'm confident in? I'm confident in our ability to get some guys back and our ability to take it a day at a time and continue to figure out ways that maximize our players' skill sets and then also tries to take advantage of the opponent that we're playing. I think if there's anything that we've learned year in and year out, and as you're continuing to accumulate experience and using that for your benefit as it relates to just coaching, it's being open-minded, continuing to learn about your players. And in a lot of instances, we are still learning about some of these guys that we're playing with. And that's a beneficial thing for us to be able to take a step back, evaluate that, and then figure out how do we have more consistency as the season progresses? Because when you look at the 6 games, I think 3 out of the 6 games, there's been some good things that have been in alignment with us staying on track, on schedule, moving the football, giving ourselves a chance to score points, maintain possession, keeping our defense off the grass. And then in those other instances, it was very clear. There was a very clear discrepancy. And, we're more hunting up those 3 games that I'm talking about as it relates to the Cardinals, the Falcons, and obviously the Panthers. But each game is its own separate entity. But we definitely want to run the football effectively. We want to be able to throw the football effectively. And I think we want to be more consistent overall offensively that will lead to good things for our team if we're able to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Nick.
Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good. How about you, Nick?
I'm doing good. Wanted to ask you just about the timetable for Van Jefferson. Obviously, did he kind of fit in it? Was there a timetable for him to return, or you guys were looking for him to return? And if so, what were some of the things that you guys were looking at to enable him to return to the field and really produce and be effective for you all?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think as a result of some of the other things that had occurred, a month ago or whenever it was that we placed them on IR, I think sometimes when guys are working back from injuries, when there's kind of that air of uncertainty, you're like, all right, I'm kind of pressing to get here. And then when you actually put a timetable on, hey, you've got this month knowing that you're on IR, we needed the roster spot, really take a step back. So we've always had this as a goal for him to be back, because this represents the first opportunity when we placed him on IR to be available for our team. So I think it was more a result of, a couple different things, needing the roster spot, and then also not feeling like you wanted to rush or press anything for Van's timetable. I think Reggie and his group and Van have done a great job of getting himself back and ready to go. Could he have been ready to go prior to this? Maybe, maybe not, but I think we felt like the smart approach was to do what we did. And then it was great to be able to have Van back out there this week. He looks good. And I'm excited for Van to be able to help our team.
And also, too, obviously, the bye week, did you have opportunity to kind of look back on the weeks prior as far as being able to better ingratiate, Allen Robinson into the offense more? Obviously, him being the big target that he is, and being able to, are some of the things that you looked at moving forward, were you able to kind of dissect those things and kind of get him more involved moving forward in the weeks to come?
There's no question, and I think like anything else, confidence compounds in the right direction when good things happen. And I think that's a really good illustration of the plays that he made in the most recent game, that you can keep building off of that. And it's like anything else. We're continuing to learn what are the best ways to do that. And then there are certain instances, like I've talked about, where coverage contours dictate where you fit in the progression based on some of the plays that we're running and where he's at location wise. But I thought the game against the Panthers was a step in the right direction. I think he and Matthew establishing a rhythm and a routine and a rapport with one another is going to be key and critical for the 11 games that we have remaining. But today was another positive step. We'll continue to try to take those steps as it leads into Sunday. But the answer is yes. And we're continuing to, try to find creative ways of doing that, because he's a guy that when he's getting involved and when he's doing the things that we've seen him do, that's better for the Rams.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll wrap it up here with Kayla, then Greg.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I know you talked about the continuity of this team and maybe the lack of that. I know it's early being back here from the bye week, but how would you evaluate the continuity now moving forward?
Well, I think it's, I think it's something that's going to be ever evolving as the season goes. Hopefully we can have some continuity as it relates to some of those positions that we've been really banged up at, Kayla. But we are getting guys a lot of experience that maybe wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. And then we're getting some guys back. So that is going to be the goal. It's figuring out this team, attacking every single day the right way. And like I mentioned, today was a step in the right direction. And I do think, based on a lot of the different moving parts that we've had, which, hey, listen, everybody has to deal with different things. Nobody's going to feel sorry for us. This has forced us to grow in ways that you wouldn't have to be stretched otherwise. And for that, I'm grateful. Never want to see guys get injured, but it does provide opportunities for other guys to step up. And so that's the way that we're looking at it. The 6 weeks that we've had has given us a chance to kind of evaluate some things, and it's going to be ever evolving as we go through the season. And looking forward to our 7th game being a good one against what we know is a great opponent.
And then just lastly from me, just seeing all the hits that Matt has taken, how would you evaluate just his well-being right now in physicality?
Yeah, he's such a tough competitor, Kayla. Obviously we want to keep our quarterback clean, and that's a contribution that we all have. Myself, the offensive coaches, his surrounding players, and then himself with some of the timing and rhythm. And so we are definitely committed to trying to keep our guy clean. He's tough. I think he'd be better equipped to answer that. But this guy has, I think, one of the traits that's made Matthew Stafford great is his competitive toughness, his ability to be able to stand in there and not watch a rush, but keep his eyes down the field and deliver throws. But we do want to keep him as clean as possible because it keeps us all a little bit more sane.
Wrap up with you, Greg.
Hey, Sean, was Bobby Brown back in practice today?
He was.
How did you
so
handle that?
If Bobby is, it's good to be able to get Bobby back in the mix. Already serving his 6-game suspension. And so we will see about his availability throughout the week, but it's good to get Big Bobby back out here.
How did you handle that? Some guys who go through a suspension like that come back and apologize to the team. Was there anything special said or anything done?
No, I think there was a very clear understanding in-house of kind of what had occurred. He's a young player that's a good dude that I think will learn from those types of things. And we want to try to avoid those moving forward. But I do believe in forgiveness, learning from some of those different things. And I don't think you want to pigeonhole yourself into one all-encompassing approach, but Bobby was remorseful. I feel good about the dialogue that existed between myself and him and his teammates as it relates to why this occurred. And now we'll put this past us and not have any of these types of setbacks moving forward. I'm confident in that.
He probably would have been competing with like Marquise and Jonah for playing time, I would think, on the line. How do you think those guys have done with the opportunity that was at least partially created by what happened to Bobby?
I think they've done a good job. I think Eric Henderson does as good a job as any coach I've been around in developing guys. Thought Marquise Copeland had one of his best games of the year. Jonah and Michael Hoyt, they make their presence felt as rotational guys on the D line. And then they also do a nice job of contributing on special teams, which is typically rare for that position group, but those guys have done a good job there. So I've been pleased with them, but getting Bobby back into the mix certainly strengthens, the overall unit. And what that means in terms of his availability and his role is kind of unfolding as the week goes.